You click on like that guy there. Maybe the
But usually, several months, so I'll get bored of what it's on. And I'll get bored of something, and then well. Yeah. Okay. I'm sitting there, I don't have something to do that. I see that, it's a clear night. But then everywhere I go, it's still 91 degrees. Well, it's 5 minutes clear night to go. I think we can go ahead and start with that. Ready? All right, everybody, let's go ahead and start. No. Am I right here? Oh, you're right there. All right. What, you don't like change? I sit over and change. He's a real daring. Yeah, I'm going to sit by you over here. You sit over there all the time. I know. Everyone tries something different. He lives in his comfort zone. Why get out? Oh, yeah. I still have the same arms. That was vintage. Steve, what's up? Is that? Yeah. Yeah. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Changing stuff up over here. 17 plus 3. You guys are always sit over here. 17 plus 30 young. Off kilter here. At one time, at BPI, award seems to work. Are we going? It's already streaming. Yeah, it has been going for the last 5 minutes. Oh, let me run it. All right. Welcome to the June meeting of the Baton Rouge Astronomical Society. Big month we're in here. Once again, Don is playing hooky on us. You know, he's going to be up all summer long. North or South Dakota? I can't remember. One of the Dakotas. One of the Dakotas, yeah. North Dakota, yeah. Well, technically, we call it the Dakota Territory because he's playing cowboy. That's correct. Yeah. I'm sure. I know he's having fun up there. I think they just had their first star party for the summer up there because he organized those up there in the state park. And for those of you that don't know, Don is our current president, vice president. Just going to do the businessy stuff first because we don't have a whole ton of businessy stuff anyway. It's summertime, so things kind of slow down for us, which is nice. We can catch our breath. Upcoming outreach, we have 2 things. One, on Saturday, June 22nd, we will be at the LASM for Dino Days. I know y'all will be there with the. We'll be there. Yep. With the rock and roll. So we'll be there. We will be there for doing our stuff. So if anybody would like to come and help out with that I haven't heard from or whatnot, please let me know. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, get yourself a free entry into the LASM. And we only go from like 10 to 2, but you're free to stay. And it's open till 5 after that. And like the planetarium shows are free. I think you just go and sit and watch the shows and stuff. So. When is that? That is Saturday, June 22nd. And then we're going to make a little trek over to Lafayette on July 15th, the morning of July 15th, to do some work at day camp there, because Chris and Annette always come over here and do all these outreaches with us over here. Somebody they had met in Lafayette contacted me and said, of course we'll come. So that'll be, I'll send out more information about that, maybe another request to see if anybody wants to come along for that, but we're going to do that. And of course, I think, the invitation has been given to us, that those of us that are going over there to do the outreach, might be able to go over to Chris and Annette's home afterwards and get a little bit of food and that'll be fun. Again, that stuff's in the newsletter or in upcoming issues, so be on the lookout. Upcoming programs, I've got a few things in the works. Spoke to a gentleman that gave a talk at the Baton Rouge Astronomy on Tap last time, and he was very happy to come out. Actually, two people I talked to there are happy to come out. We're going to try and get Dr. Hines out here. He said he wants to come speak with us about the Chandra X-ray observatory. So that would be cool. Another new column, I forgot what he was talking about neutron stars and that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool about the episode. And I did get confirmation. I've been speaking with the director at the planetarium downtown, and one of our upcoming meetings here, I'm not sure exactly when, I have to nail down a date with him. We will have our meeting at the planetarium. So we'll get to go in there and check out a free planetarium show, and it'll be after hours at the place and whatnot. But so that'll be fun. Yeah.
Will you bring the deal with them?
What's that?
Will you bring the deal with them?
You're harassing every guy. Harassing every guy.
So now that will not be, that'll be one of those meetings that will not be on a Monday night. So we will move that, and I'm kind of, he told me that his days off are Mondays and Tuesdays, so he would prefer not to do it on one of those days. He said Wednesday through Sunday. I'm leaning towards a Sunday, just because I figured traffic-wise, like there would be problems with downtown traffic. Yeah, and any parking is free and stuff, so if everybody thinks that a Sunday evening, I think they're still open until like 5, so it would be after 5 o'clock, and even maybe it'd be like a 5 o'clock thing or something, doesn't have to be as late at night, but, so, if you have any ideas or any thoughts, let me know afterwards. Like, hey, about this time. But, so yeah, I'm thinking Sunday maybe. Make it easier for him too, because stay a little bit after his normal work day. What's that? Oh yeah, the training session for our outreach toolkits and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of a get together to really kind of come together and talk about what we want to be doing and how to organize some of our things and stuff for our outreach sessions that we do here and there. So we will do that, and that is, I think, Sunday till June 30th. Yeah, so last Sunday. Yeah, the last Sunday in June. 2 o'clock, yeah, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. So, yes, and that was in the, I think that was in the newsletter. Who's been reading the newsletter? Read people. I heard you. Read the newsletter. Scott puts time into it. Yeah. Takes time to do it. There is information in there from our club, from the HRPO stuff. see what's been going on, what's coming up.
Try to streamline it so that like really easy to see where the events are on the front page.
Yeah. And if you have any thoughts or comments or wishes, things that you'd like to see in the newsletter or whatnot, there's that. So.
You can send it to me and I'll do it.
There you go. Other than that, any other business that anybody has any things you'd like to discuss? Talk about? Pretty much things went well. You know, we didn't have much going on this last month. We did we had the last Perkinsville thing, and then we had the event at the library.
Yeah, the library, well attended.
Yeah, it went very well. So a lot of people.
That was fun. I did somebody's right in my little room.
Really?
I went and I got a commercial movie. I set it out on the table next to all the stuff so we could get drink in my pocket.
They might have thought it was theirs or something.
They thought it was, it's more.
Or just right, yeah.
Did you get us back?
No. Don't feel bad for him. I've been in his place and he has like 1,000 movies.
Which is why I'm.
Yeah.
He is a really cheap. It's not, it's a habit.
No, it's not an addiction. It's a
I can stop. I don't get the shades, I never have to go to the hospital.
And I'm just gonna do a quick plug for this. This shirt is from Astronomy on Tap. You may or may not have heard about it. It's a nationwide thing, at least nationwide thing. I don't know if it's worldwide or not, but it is nationwide. And I want to say it was Dr. Tabitha Boyadin that kind of spearheaded getting it started here in Baton Rouge when she came to LSU.
Oh, yeah,
She's faculty. Yeah.
she's got a drinking problem.
Yeah. And it's they post on their Facebook page and whatnot when it's semi-regular. It happens once a month. That's the good regular part. Usually it's on a Wednesday, but it's not always on a Wednesday. This next one's actually not going to be at the varsity. It's going to be at the Louisiana Art Museum, the LSU Art Museum. But it's still a free thing, and I think they have an open market. That's gonna be crazy. But it is a fun little thing. I don't think it's
It's usually
a age
two
limit or
lectures
anything,
on an astronomy topic, no age limit, and then the
two short lectures. They're like 20
little
minutes
break,
long,
and a
they
Q&A.
break in the middle, and they do
trivia,
on the games and whatnot.
basically put on by the LSU Physics Astronomy
Yeah.
Department. So that usually know pretty good. It's a great way for them to take out their graduate students and their overachieving undergrad.
But occasionally they have some of their professors doing things as well. But yeah, so plug for them. Keep an eye out for that. We try, if it's on when they have it on their Facebook page, sometimes they tag us, or we always repost it on our Facebook page. So you can see what it is.
And leaning towards the I'm told that the only reason they don't announce it earlier is because it's somewhat technical. I think they got the one for next month already.
Yeah.
So we know about it.
Which I probably should have brought up. But now, speaking of, okay, one last thing, I'll just do this so we know that it's coming up. But we've got astronomy magazines up here, a box of them. You're free to take some if you like. If you don't, then there will be free giveaways at upcoming outreach events. You'll have four dollar raffle things tonight. There's a Sea Star t-shirt that we have about the Sea Star from Scott. A cool DVD, Welcome to Mars. A little book, Astrophotography, Near City Lights. Some nice pictures in it. They're black and white, so it's not very colorful, but
very cool distant wanderers searching for planets around stars other than our own. Those will be dollar raffle tickets, and of course, somebody here tonight. There better be somebody here. You don't have to be here to win it, so it better not be one of those people. Somebody here tonight is going to be walking home with this telescope. So, tickets will still be on sale until we do the drawing, so they're $5 each. We'll sell those after the presentation. And these are the secondary prize. If we don't win the telescope, we could get yourself a brand new unopened pair of very nice walking glasses. And the 27 June is the next one. 27, it's a Thursday. Thursday.
How many more minutes till the raffle?
Many minutes. He's about to
Did you want to go ahead and do it now? Well,
All right.
you always said no one wanted to listen.
That's right.
So, I mean,
And now, without further ado, this month's presentation is Mr. Scott Cadwallader.
So the basic idea here is we're going to do a cursory summary of how to do electronic assisted astronomy, what it is, why we want to do it, some of the problems with doing it, and some of the basic advantages. So basically, what is the AAA? The AAA is using electronic devices to improve the view of the stroke. It's basically a tool. You can think of it as like a new souped-up eyepiece, if you really have to. When I was sitting around thinking of how to sit around and explain what electronic assisted astronomy was, I was drawing parallels to, well, it's kind of like when they invented the telescope. It's like the people using the telescopes were making great discoveries, and the people that weren't were actually marking the movement of the stars, which is what they did back then. We're talking about all these crazy new things now. It's too complicated. Well, now, instead of going and just looking through the eyepiece, we use cameras, which allows us to probe deeper into the night sky than we could have before. But more importantly than that, we find that we can actually show these images to people. So for one of the coolest things that you can do with AAA is you can actually show people these deep sky objects that they're very familiar with in the internet, live, in person, when there's just no way you can see it through the telescope. Like a lot of times you'll say, well, you can't see this because, oops, the light pollution will get you. There's just too much light pollution. But the truth is that if you take these same individuals, put them in a very large telescope and show them these galaxies from the dark sky side, they will be very disappointed. But if you take it and you show them a little camera and you show them a little swirl there and all the little dots next to it, suddenly it becomes real. You're sitting right next to a device like this, which is shooting the night sky, bringing it in a very real sense. And it's not going to look like astrophotography, but it will show that these things are drinking the photons just the same way as us. So there are varying types of EAA, and some people making a very big distinction between EAA and night vision, but night vision is just sort of a different EAA. We'll get to that in a second. But increasingly, people are realizing, all these companies out there are starting to realize that this electronic assisted astronomy, people don't want to be astrophotographers. They don't want to take all the time to learn how to master the art there. They just want to see a really cute, simple picture that they can share on social media or look at and see, oh my God, that's there, that's really there, like not the scope and shapes, and not that's really with no muss and no fuss. So they started developing these standalone products. So why do EAA? Shows people things that you couldn't otherwise see. For us, it allows us to engage an entire crowd all at once. So if, for example, I'm showing you a picture of Andromeda or the moon, if we've got this broadcast going to a giant TV behind me, I can turn around, I can point to the various Maria and things like that, talk about what caused the craters, entertain questions as they're coming up. When somebody says, hey, what's that thing there? And I can say, what thing? And instead of spending 5-10 minutes and building up a line, going through and finding that target, and then going, oh yeah, that's Progress, whatever, you can just point to it on the thing, and then you can more or less go through and start exploring what the application was. So it becomes an aid to talking about these objects. So you're no longer talking about what you're seeing through the scope, you're talking about what you're seeing in the scope. If that makes any sense. It's a fine secondly, why do we? Well, it turns out you can do astronomy from the comfort of your own home. If you're going to go stand outside in the field on an average Friday night here, you will be swamped by mosquitoes. It will be burning hot, and sometimes it will be freezing cold, and you will start complaining. Actually, recently we've been swamped by termites. So for the first hour after dark, you just a little swarm of things and you're shaken up. But no bugs or anything like that. We can set up the scope outside, come inside, watch on a giant screen like the scope you can inside, all from this wonderful kind of nice with that. Some of the same tools that we use for EAA can be used for astrophotography. And this has been like the thing that gets talked about so much on the forums nowadays, is they will look outside and there's like 3 feet of snow and their portable scope is sitting there in the snow and there's, inside sniffing for stuff on it, talking about how so we can also then take these images that people that come and visit us have. We create the images on site. They can then be downloaded, these images. We can use this as a way of promoting them to put the images that we saw tonight will go up on our website, which directs traffic, or to our social media page, which directs influence and gives us info back to us by pushing that. Or they can walk away with a picture themselves, and then they're able to show that to their friends. That drives interest in the club and starts to keep back together.
Yeah, to that second point, we talked about this at Freak Alpine in Minneapolis. There's something about ownership of that photo that makes people.
This is one of the easiest ways to do EAA, and I'll get to this in a second, is taking a picture through the scope with your cell phone. And for a while, we've gotten kind of used to it as doing parlor tricks out here and at various outreaches and things like that. So generally people walk up and they'll play with the phone for a minute and they can't quite get it, and we'll offer to take the picture for them eventually. But what we've realized more and more is don't throw out the fancy adapters, let them play with it, because they want to engage with the stuff. And being able to engage with it does give you ownership, makes you feel like you've done something, that you can do something that's strong, that's now approachable for you. That this is not something that is only given in the rarefied, that everyone can understand. Secondly, it's science promotion. So what I mean by science promotion is, if you walk out here and you've been looking at pictures of nebula and galaxies all your life, and you come to the observatory and they show you planets. But if there are no planets in the night sky, and you don't see any galaxies, and somehow you walk away having been pointed at this kind of smudge that you saw on the eyepiece, that the guys working the telescope really do assure you that this is an awesome thing that you're looking at. Sometimes you can walk away feeling very disappointed. But if I show you this actual object and it looks not like the images that you see online, but close enough that you can say, oh my God, this is it, I'm just not very good at it, then this is something you keep that sense of shame strong. You can't see a galaxy and you haven't seen a galaxy. And you might want to come back. It's all right. So the easiest types of things. Let's start at the very beginning. Cell phones. Cell phones have gotten a lot better. We've gotten better and better night vision equipment. That's a little blown out shot of the Milky Way, not particularly good one. We shot that Friday night. A bunch of us went out to the dark sky site. This is like a 10-second shot. No enhancements whatsoever. Standard iPhone long exposure. So cell phone's the easiest way to do AAA. Takes really good pictures of the sun and the moon, even without having an electronic tracking type telescope. You just point a dumb Dobsonian at it, you take a picture through the eyepiece, walk away, it looks wonderful. Sun and moon. Night skies exposure for aurora and Milky Way, spelled in the pre-Noah Webster sense with the E. So I'll take ownership of that. Yeah, I was moving that moon a couple of things. It's another great way to let patrons engage with the equipment. Like I said, they want to be at the eyepiece, they want to take the picture. Even if we offer to take the picture for them, they would rather have a worse shot and have to be something. take the picture again, they share it with friends and family, that encourages now their friends and family want their own picture, they come and make returns, they see this happen. It's really good with a simple iPhone holder. These guys range from like $10 to $100 for the more complex ones. All this does is clamps onto the eyepiece and the picture holds your iPhone still. The cool thing there is that if you're really, really good at it, you can do slightly longer exposures. And then you can start getting things like Dumbbell Nebula or Orion Nebula or occasionally an Andromeda or Kuiper cluster or star cluster, things like that. Then if you can hold it steady long enough, which if you've got a proper mount and a holder you can do, you can start to get some better ones, not great, but better. Doesn't require any equipment, you get better the more often you do it. Doesn't work as well on deep sky objects. But give you a couple of examples of the types of things you can do with deep sky. On the left is the aurora that we had at the start of May. I ran out to the dark sky site, like there's no way to see anything. Just pointed the camera up, didn't see anything. And sure enough, I looked back at my camera afterwards, like, oh gosh, yeah, that's a lot redder than it should be. Over here to the left, you can see this is Saturn. We've got Orion Nebula right here, if you can make it out. This was taken from Perkins Road during one of our events out there. We've got a globular cluster there, I think that's M3. And then this one here, I threw that one up just because it's fun. That was the big part for Fractal, that's Jupiter, of course. And you can see the telltale purple fringe. And a pretty decent Jupiter that I got, and then just a random full shot. Those were done because I swear my entire phone is full of shots and really not impressed.
Oh, question, you're just using the camera?
This is just using the camera, holding it up to the eyepiece, taking a picture.
And no special app or anything?
No special app, this is all native equipment. This is the type of thing where if we go through an outreach at Perkins Road, or out here at the observatory, or wherever we are, people can just take it. Can I try and get a picture of that? Yep, you can try and get a picture of it. It may not be great. See, that's that Saturn looks kind of blurry. That you don't see any of the markings on Jupiter that's blown out from there. But you can make out all the moons. Well, really. So all that simple, easy, just point, click, walk away. So the next thing that we've got when we're moving up the chain of EA, this is night vision. This is the stuff that is really, really cool. I would love this stuff. This is super expensive. But this is the type of thing, like when you run into National Guard people, they'll tell you about how, when they were flying choppers back, at something or another, and they had to envy like the entire sky and see what all these the lights on. Well, you take that same thing, plug it into an eyepiece, like which this design here was put out from Tel Aviv. This is through their website using a very common TD14 style, which all this does, white phosphorus light. This amplifies the light. That basically they're saying that it makes your telescope 2 to 3 times the aperture of light gas power. So it gives the benefits. This gives actual live. This is like turning up the gain, so to speak, turning up the bright on the view through the telescope. You pop one of these guys in, and suddenly you can just see things that aren't there. I've talked to people that somebody came back to the observatory with one of these things a couple of years ago, and I went in here and thought the programming aides that were told me about the experience, and it was very dangerous. But the cool thing that we can do with this also is we can start using H-alpha with this, because I can now boost that signal using the thing to look further into the spectrum and see some objects that you can't before. So for example, suddenly the Horsehead Nebula becomes very within reach for a live view, not a stacked delay, a live view. You can now see this just like 3 to 5 grand. And you're going to be stuck with this green chrome pass or this white chrome pass. So you're not going to pull any of the colors out of this, but it's because again, you're not seeing colors natively when you look through a telescope anyway. It's all black and white. So let's see between black and white and green. The downshot, of course, is that it's going to, like your natural night vision, it's going to be your mostly shot. So here are some prime examples from, again, the television website of the type of views that you can see. This is actually this was taken from a blog topic that was linked to by the website from one of the guys. So you can see, for example, the Monkey Head Nebula, or the Rosette, California. As I think 3 or 13, that's probably Horsehead Nebula and Flame, and then a needle galaxy there. All live from a portal 9 zone. This means that someplace like downtown Baton Rouge, you could just look through the scope and see this, which super, super impressive. You can imagine turning the 20-inch upstairs and go 2 meter telescope. Wow. Yeah. The Monkey Head. So this is, like I said, the really cool stuff. Now we come into the stuff that's more approachable for us. This is the area that must, win the lottery and stuff like that. Or, some National Guard guy that's hitting on us, or Frank thinks this is going to be awesome, so they buy it for much, or LSU. Live cycling. We take the eyepiece out and we throw a camera into the telescope. Other than that, we use our same basic equipment. So the thing that this does is, when you're looking through it with your eye, you're only able to absorb photons for so long before basically your buffer resets. So you think of like you walk into a dark room in the middle of the night, you flip the light on, and suddenly you can see the afterglow from this light for a few seconds. That's your eye buffer. So if you can hold that afterglow for 5 or 6 minutes, or 30 seconds, 20 minutes, an hour, then you'll be able to hold those photons in, you'll be able to pull up more and more data from. This is what we're doing with the cameras. Is because we can just open the shutter and let all the light drop in, we can pull in these dim objects, one photon at a time. The longer you expose, the more light you're getting from this object is going to hit, the more pronounced these objects become. The cameras allow us to make this open. So, problem is, field of view is going to be fixed. There's a nice little formula there for trying to figure out what the focal view is, or the field of view is. So basically, by doing stuff like that, you can find a way of figuring out that this eyepiece view here is going to be roughly the same as the view. And you can learn about it. Actually, this one here is a fun little toy. This one. Stacking improves the collection over time. You toss it. Basically, one of the other things it does is if we're using short exposures and then stacking them over time, if like a satellite or a plane flies through the field of view, you'll be able to recognize these photons don't belong because now the other frame side it just pops that view. So you don't have to worry about moving all the exposures. The cool thing here is that we can use our existing equipment, and then if you really don't care about using the existing equipment or don't have it, you can just buy a standalone module. And these are starting to get more and more common. We've got the high-end versions, we've got the low-end versions, and it's a nice little mixture in there. They're cool, these guys. Some of them even utilize just your own cell phone. A nice little thing. I don't think it tracks, but it uses your cell phone.
In the equation, is that new?
Yeah. So yeah, there's another one that let you do the field view in degrees. Again, it's just able to kind of limited to anything that's roughly, we're shooting for about a degree, and that's going to be most of your brighter, larger objects. So anything that's like really, really tiny, these planetary nebulae, things like that, cat's eyes is not going to be able to stuff. That's not the type of object that you want. It's not very large. Generally, and I'll show out why, we try and limit ourselves to like 5 to 10 minutes, go as little as 2 minutes, but essentially you find the target, you look at it for about 5 minutes, and that'll develop it enough that it's bright enough to see, and it's bright enough to knock out some of the noise. People tell it is what it is, and you move on to the next topic. So, if you go over 10 minutes, you start going a couple of minutes. Yeah. On focus cameras are the main thing that we're doing, like I said. CMOS, CCD, DSLR. What we're doing is basically doing near real time. So we start with short exposures, we start the exposure route over about every 10 to 15 seconds. This again, we're going to take that and we're going to stack it. Basically, my analogy seems to be, imagine trying to fill a bucket with an eye dropper. You can turn on a faucet and let it drip constantly, or you just put like 5 drops in and stop getting 5 drops in. So essentially, for all these photons, we're treating them like little drops. So it doesn't matter, in order to get, the longer your exposure is, the brighter the object. So it doesn't matter if you do it with short exposures or long exposures, 15 minutes, 10 seconds at a time is the same as 15 minutes all the time. So we're going with the shorter exposures that we already talked about. We're then going to use the computer to lay these individual images on top of one another to produce the signal. And that's what the basic idea of the blog is. The cool thing is, you'll be able to get much more detail. You'll be able to get color. But it's not exactly the same as astrophotography. Less processing, no data, short exposures. And you can always take these, mostly these devices will save the frame. You can actually take it home and put it on afterwards if you want. But again, that's not what you're doing. You're basically trying to show people as near the real comprehension as possible. Type of equipment you use, stuff that's basically laying around the house, cargo hold, go-to scope, planetary or deep sky DSLR camera. Try and go for a faster scope, something like a guide scope does really well. You happen to know what a hyperstar is? That's basically a way of changing a f10 scope into an f2 scope. So you've got a lot of aperture and picks up the photons quickly and you can do shots really fast. Or just a short focal length. This is an f6 here with this camera. It's about a degree. Other than that, you're going to need some control software. You can either use some programs on the computer, which is freeware, or you can pay a little bit more for some more bells and whistles, or you can get a dedicated program to get that's the I realized when I was doing this, everybody starts off astrophotography with something called Deep Sky Stacker. It's a free program that's designed to take your long exposure photographs and form them together into a nice big thing. Like I said, it's free, everybody has it. But it also downloads with this one thing that nobody pays attention to called live stacking software. It's bundled together. So what that does is you take any capture program that you want, you point this live stacking program to the folder where all these individual subs are saved, and it'll stack them as these subs are coming in. So you can use any capture program that you like. But again, most of the capture software that they have out there that's very popular already has this built in, or by now. And then of course you can get a, if you want, instead of having a laptop computer, you can get just like a little mini PC or a Raspberry Pi or something like that. Download this capture software. And then you get a little box like that, which does the entire thing. The main reason for doing that is, in my opinion, battery power. So I can power this with a tiny little battery like that for like 8 hours at a time, whereas my laptop starts about after 1 p.m. And if I want to replace this battery, all right. So the other way you can do EAA is more and more we're getting these dedicated all-in-one systems. Every one of the big guys now has it. Celestron has a new thing that's coming out called the Origin, which is, again, an F6 RASA, or it's a 6-inch RASA scope set up to do live stacking built into the thing that can be processed later. Coming out. ZW and Dwarf Labs are 2 of the newer ones. These guys are in the cheaper, probably $500 range, not a terribly big buy-in, really nice to use this scope. And these are the type of thing where you just set the device down, press start, pull up your camera, pick the target that you want, and it'll smooth the target and start taking images. And then when you get done, after a couple of minutes, Bionus and Unistellar are kind of the old men in this neighborhood. Bionus has the one that put out the Stellina and the Vespera. And then I believe they've got the new one out, which is comparable to the ZW and the Dwarf Lab, the Dwarf 3 now, which is basically a tiny little device that you put your phone on, and it magnifies the image for your Unistellar is a really cool device. That's the one that's the EV scope. If you were out here at Astronomy Day, you might have seen that LSU brought theirs out for that. And that one has some really nice things where they actually do the live stacking, but they realized that you don't need much processing power to do the live stack. So they embedded a tiny little LED or a OLED device screen, put it into the eyepiece or a fake eyepiece and stuck it on the tube. So it doesn't really do or look anywhere, but it reflects all the images that you'll see from the camera that's built into it. Then it looks at the eyepiece, and when you look through this thing that looks like an eyepiece, you'll see the stack. And it looks really, really strong, but you can actually pop out and do that. It's still really looking good. I keep joking that you could do the exact same thing with a toilet paper tube in your phone. But the people at LSU that shelled out the, what was then $6 grand for their, which would probably be now, the cool thing is that when you're coming into the future, you've also got these guys here. The Revolution Imager is probably the original one. Everybody remembers that, the better than life thing that's promised in the back of the magazines. And this one is in the back of every study, also in astronomy. And essentially what this is a CCD camera and a small relay that goes to a portable LED mount. And it does the live stacking the same way as the rest of these things do. But again, it's just a camera you plug it in your eyepiece. They bill it as the best $200 eyepiece, or maybe $400. Either way, it's basically the same thing. The newest version of this, which is just showed up at the astronomy forums last month or back in, I think in April, whatever that is called the Pegasus Eye, or the electric eye, or something like that. What this is the same thing from the Unistellar, where it's got the built-in screen and stacking software. And this one it's just the entire built into the eyepiece. You can throw it into any telescope. And it will magnify the view, collect the photons, just like it would through a camera, and project it onto a screen that's in a eyepiece. Personally, I think they dropped the ball by missing the price point on that. But that one's going to be out sometime by the end of 2024 for like $1,500. And that's, if it had been $500, every astronomy club in the country would have it's not. And just wait a couple of years and ZW will have one for $650. All right. So what are we talking about with the EAA? These were all done with a system similar to this. These two were with a little bit of processing. This is stuff that I picked out from Perkins. All these were picked out from Perkins Road during our sidewalk astronomy events. Set up a scope, let people walk by, look at it. It's like, okay, now we're going to let this go for a few minutes, and this will develop. You get the Eagle Nebula, the Omega Nebula, the Ring, and this one's kind of tough. But you'll see the Veil if you really look out. It's the eastern and the western Veil. And then of course an M13, and a dumbbell, and a whirlpool. I think all the bottom row is all shot outside.
One thing I say is if one of us is doing this in terms of outreach, be ready for the question, well, where is that?
Yeah, and that turns
ask,
out
always ask.
Well, and it's right, and that's the cool thing is because you're doing this live, you can say it's right where the scope's pointing. And if you really want to drive it home, you just kick the scope and they'll watch the screen shake. And then you lose the part and you feel bad about it. So this is more the same. I've got a little bit more processing on this one. You can see, again, the Horsehead Nebula that you would not see from naked eye. I've seen it visually from a dark sky site once. It's tough. So you're definitely not going to see that. This here was Perkins Row, and I'm going to show you a different version of this Perkins Row later, and I'll talk about why we need that to limit the exposure to 20 minutes or 15 minutes tops, and that's basically the key. This one here was another one from last summer, so we have to capture that supernova going off in M101. And this was just a night that I couldn't make it out to the dark sky site because it was really, really cloudy, so I just set up in my driveway downtown. And something like that, just along with the supernova. That's the advantage of the And of course, if you could actually figure out what that is, I would be impressed. But I would want to say that.
That's not, that's the one.
It's better, I'm looking at those 3 stars, I think it is.
It's the owl.
Is it the owl?
It's a terrible job.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm saying, those 3 stars are landmark or something.
Yeah. And of course, open cluster, your globulars are just tacky. These were shot the last time I did at Perkins Road. That's the Rosette Nebula there, and this is the Orion. But you can see this little twisting of the frame.
yeah.
That is the field rotation. Because I'm doing all this with a simple Alt-as mount, that means gradually what's happening is I'm not exactly tracking it as it goes. I'm sort of more or less keeping it the same field of view.
You have to kind of crop that out.
So either the longer you expose, the more that you have to crop, or you start getting this little twisty gradient attached.
Yeah, that's cool.
It looks kind of cool. It's postcards from the edge type thing.
Wow.
Well, this is the reason that you don't let it run for 20 minutes.
Tell people you took that to the chimney at your house.
It's real simple. You just turn on the flash, and like the flash won't hit the sky. It just it just illuminates the
That's pretty
chimney.
cool.
Yeah. So this is not from my telescope. This is from a dedicated thing from the CSTAR where they've actually matched the camera and the telescope, so it's exactly perfect. And these were all shot by our club member Brian Fontenay. He's the guy who brought his CSTAR back earlier this year in January to show off. But we went out and did a trip out to the dark sky site this past weekend, and we brought this thing and put this online, and I yoinked it. So you've got this nice little 6-minute shot of the brand new comet, the C23A3 Atlas, which is going to be a possibility for a naked eye comet later this year. Right now, it's sitting around there. It was listed at magnitude 12. It's definitely right. We threw our visual scopes on this after we took this picture, and yeah, you could definitely do that. So cat's paw and dumbbell. This is actually a pretty good version of the owl, and then of course the whirlpool. These are all. Some of these things tend to repeat themselves. Not every great deep sky object is going to make a very nice, pretty picture from EAA. So basically, you're limited to the Messier, something called parallel, and if you blend your nebulous regions like cat's paw, things like that. Hydrogen alpha things show up really well. You've got a nice dual band filter, makes it much easier, makes the sky fun. Same as visually, but visually you can't see those challenges. And again, quality images, not high quality. You're not going to see these in the back of magazines, but it's enough that you can walk away saying, "Oh my God, I just saw that," and feel really good. So what are the big limitations? Well, you're never going to replace the looking for a telescope. The simple nostalgia, the magic of it, the fact that you're looking at the moon and the moon is there and you can see the depth of the crater and things like that. It's just not going to match. But the point is that you are never going to see these deep sky objects with the telescope, even if you went to a dark, unless you went to a dark sky side, a fairly popular size telescope, like way in for outreach. That's a non-starter. Again, if you have to convince people that what they're seeing is cool, you've already lost a lot. You have to have, it takes time and energy to set up, so you need a group in order to get this done. If it's just one guy setting up a camera at a site for a bunch of people come by and ask him questions, eventually they're going to start thinking that he's sort of rude and off-putting because he won't answer the questions and he seems to cuss a lot. That doesn't work and things like that.
Sounds like personal experience.
Personal experience, I've done this a few times now. But the point being is that if you've got some more people around, if you put this as part of a medley with a bunch of other telescopes, suddenly it becomes something cool. When they're waiting the 5 minutes for the image to move to the next image or for the image to develop enough to see, they can go and take a look at the planets, or they can look at something else that's the night sky, or they can sit around and talk with you about what's developing. But you definitely need somebody else there to reflect on you. The field rotation we could also talk about, and the big problem here, which is the one we run out to in here all the time, and the reason we don't do it at HRPO is because it requires screens, and the screen would block your dark matter. Oddly enough, we've been trying again and again and again to find a way to broadcast something from outside to inside very easily. We can do it, but with a limited range. But we can start thinking about putting it in recording on both projectors. You can see the live view from way down here, broadcasting here. And I've almost got it figured out. I just think a little complicated. So, what are the advantages? You can actually see sky objects. People come to the observatory, or come to one of our events, and they want to see good deep sky objects. Well, we can show you the planets, we can show you the moon, we can show you the sun. But certain times of year, certain decades, there are no planets in the night sky for months. Okay. Well, I've still got the moon every other month. Sometimes, like right now, the only thing in the night sky, or back in April or March, the only really cool thing to look out in the night sky are going to be galaxies, and I can't filter through the light haze in those galaxies. I've limited to about 3 galaxies, and again, that's convincing a 6-year-old that small little smudge in the eyepiece is really, really cool, and they just aren't fine. So we can show many more objects. We can, for example, start to broadcast our star parties of the universe. Ben has done this a lot over at Perkins Road and various other outreaches, where he will launch the phone up and then go through the Facebook or the website, and suddenly we're live streaming the view through the scopes and encouraging people to come out and look at it. And we're also getting comments from people that we wouldn't ever get to talk to anymore, or wouldn't make it, people from out of town, out of state, long gone, etc., really connections and stuff like that. So we're pulling in people from all around the country and really talking about it. We're having a global star party, essentially, which incidentally is what Astronomical League does once a week. They call it the Global Star Party, and part of that now is almost always includes a bit where they just take a telescope and hit live stacks and images and they talk about the object. This is Tuesdays or Fridays. I think their partner will run the most weeks, and they'll have an AL component. They'll do the Global Star Party that's just the AL, Star Party. So people can take the images and share them with others. They walk away feeling like they've had an astronomy experience, and it lets them focus more on the objects that they're looking at instead of the telescope itself. So you're not just talking like what the telescope is and how much I can get that for. Suddenly, if you're looking at it through a camera that's really, really sensitive, you're not worried about things like that. So the closing thought. This one I pulled off of from Douglas Adams, The Salmon of Doubt. He says, I've come up with a set of rules that describe our reactions to technology. Anything that is in the world when you're born is normal and ordinary. It's just a natural part of the way the world works. Anything that's invented between when you're 15 and 35 is new and exciting and revolutionary. You can probably get a career in it. And anything invented after you're 35 is against the natural order. Which I love this quote. It comes in so often. But every once in a while, you find some of these old timers that just won't hear anything about electronic cameras or electronic apps or anything like that. That always comes in the back of my mind. It's just, well, they said the same thing about the telescope itself. And they're going to supplant the AA with much cooler stuff. Imagine processing power in the future where instead of doing a 30-second exposure to get it, we live stack video at 60 frames a second, for example. And it actually, as you watch it in real time, it just comes together. And that's coming. We just need to back. All right, that's the presentation.
Awesome.
We were going to try, and I brought up the equipment that we can set up and try to do the live stacking outside if we could, but then I remembered, oh right, it's June. And I don't really think that we need to to stay out here until
Nine o'clock.
9:30 before it gets dark and all that. But if anybody's interested, I could run through the simplest free version of a SharkCat program, plug everything in, and do a dry run, and we can broadcast that up if you all have the time. But I know at the very least, some of the people are anxious to see whether or not they're walking home with a small view of to leaving their backyard.
That's a good analogy right there.
I will hand this back, but basically, I think I've explained this one enough.
Any questions or anything for Scott?
I will entertain questions. I won't answer them necessarily, but I will definitely entertain.
So somebody starting out, like which live stacking would you recommend?
So oddly enough, I'm a really big fan of what they call the little red box. If I was just starting out and I didn't already have telescope equipment, I would pull into a ZWO, C-Star, or a Dwarf 3 for 4 flags. These are $500, set it and forget it type things. Find out this cool little astrophotos that you want and walk away. Other than that, I think I would just take whatever telescope that I first bought, as long as it was an electronic telescope, pair it with a general camera, and use free live stacking software. The ZWO has started bundling their planetary cameras with a live stacking software that's very, very nice. And everybody uses SharkStack, which is a basic multifunctional planetary capture, deep sky capture thing, which it turns out also has plate solving, which lets you plug your telescope into the computer, you tell it where to go, it will take a picture of the night sky, know exactly where it is, and then move the telescope and hold the object in place directly in the center. It's a very nice feature. It's advanced. Used to be advanced, now it is good. And the little red boxes, all the standalones have the same features. That's how they bond the night sky. That's why you can walk away. Set it down, press a button, and you walk away.
So your little red box, I see what looks like an antenna, so it's
Yep.
broadcastable?
So this essentially is started off as a Raspberry Pi. The first one of these came up in 2020, and they've been getting better ever since. Basically, Raspberry Pi built in here. I've got 4 USB ports and 4 power outs to power various other things such as the mount, the camera. You've got a couple things, the camera, and all that. It broadcasts its information directly to an app that's used on your phone, and then you can
Like Bluetooth or something like that? Or
Bluetooth or Wi-Fi,
Wi-Fi?
and it streams all the images that are taken with the camera that's plugged into it, into your app, and you can monitor and changes. Which is the exact same thing if I were to take a USB cable, plug it through the PC, and the camera and all of this. But again, it's just portabilities of use.
Now, did you purchase that as a unit or you built it?
I built it. So this guy here is like having a C-Star that is modular. I can just, whenever I want to change out the image, I just take this off. So I can use this with my C6, my C9. Or I think my favorite is, I realized at some point that you could just take a regular old guide scope, like a little 60 millimeter that you stick on the top of the scope, and you can run through with a small planetary camera. That'll still be able to run through view and stack just as well. Which is one of the things I tried. It's really fun. Is you throw that on top of like a C8 to like a Nexstar like we have in the front there. You pair the field of view from the guide scope with the view through the eyepiece, and you can throw the scope and have simultaneously a stream session to an iPad showing you what's looking at through the main scope, where people can walk up, look through the eyepiece, and you'll be shown the same thing you look for. So you can say, look, this little dot here is going to be a little dot in between the eyepiece here, that's what you're looking for, and it really helps point out the things. This one is a little different. This is a flip mirror here.
It's not live, you can't look live at the picture, you're flipping one or the other.
No, it's either one or the other with this one, which is the healthy compromise. It's a weak. But yeah, if I want to look at the object, I flip that down and I look through the eyepiece. And this is really good for looking at the moon or the sun or something like that, because we can be out there.
It's a removable diagonal.
Yeah, it's a removable diagonal. Essentially, if we want, we can be out looking at the sun and moon and outreach with our computer showing it the sun. Like, let me show you what we're going to see. What we're looking at today is going to be this object here. I want you to focus on these 2 things right here. Okay, I'm gonna switch this up, I want you to look through this like that. You whatever, and you're like, sure enough, it's the same thing. And that's, but now you're looking at the, so it's educational, it's instructive.
Now, the tracking of the scope itself, that's still the scopes.
Yeah, kind of, so the fun of EAA is that you're not guidance. You're using the tracking that's built into the mount, and you're basically, 30 seconds is usually enough time to correct the errors. And after about 5 minutes, if you're way off, it starts to drift. But then you just won't stack those, you move to the next target. It's not really a problem. But it's going to start the center, and you're going to have about 5 pretty much. So you don't need to know. And that's why it's just relying on the track of the surface.
Or you can even predict and get a little